The auction hall reeked of ammonia and desperation. Captain Marcus Chen stood among the crowd of traders, slavers, and collectors, his face carefully neutral behind his breather mask. The Krell Empire had made its fortune on the backs of lesser species, and today's merchandise was particularly exotic. On the elevated platform, a small figure huddled in electromagnetic restraints. She couldn't have been more than their equivalent of 12 standard years. A Veilari child with opalescent skin that shimmered like oil on water. Her 4 eyes were wide with terror, and the crystalline formations growing from her shoulders trembled. "Lot 47, the auctioneer's translator crackled. "Veilari female, juvenile. Crystals are pharmaceutical grade. Bidding starts at 5,000 credits. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The Veilari were rare, peaceful, and their kind had been hunted to near extinction for those very crystals. He'd heard the screams when harvesters carved them out. The victims rarely survived the process. 6,000, a Krell merchant called out, mandibles clicking with anticipation. 7, another voice added. Marcus knew he shouldn't get involved. He was here on a delivery run, nothing more. His ship, the Defiant Dawn, waited in dock with a hold full of legitimate cargo. Getting tangled in Empire business was a death sentence for independent human traders. The girl's eyes met his across the crowded hall. In that moment, Marcus saw something he recognized, not just fear, but a fierce will to survive. It reminded him of his sister before the colony raids, before he'd been too late. 20,000 credits, Marcus heard himself say. The hall went silent. Every predator in the room turned to stare at the human. 20,000 was more than the child was worth for parts. It was suspicious, dangerous. The auctioneer recovered first. 20,000 to the human. Going once, going twice. 30,000, the Krell merchant hissed. And I'll harvest her here in the hall as a warning to anyone who interferes with Imperial commerce. Marcus's hand moved to his plasma pistol, then stopped. There were 50 armed guards in this room. He'd be dead before he cleared leather. Instead, he did something the Krell never expected from a species they considered soft. He smiled. 50,000 credits, Marcus said calmly. Plus, I'll throw in information about the human weapons cache on Praxis Station. The one your Empire has been looking for. That got their attention. The Krell Empire had been hunting that particular stockpile for 3 cycles. The fact that a human knew about it and was willing to trade it changed everything. The merchant's antennae twitched with barely contained greed. You're bluffing. The cache is in Section 7, behind the old terraforming equipment, Marcus continued. Plasma rifles, mag grenades, and 3 warheads. I can transmit the access codes right now. It was all true. It was also a cache that belonged to the Resistance. His resistance. He was burning bridges he could never rebuild. But some things were worth it. The auctioneer looked to the merchant, who clicked his mandibles in frustration before waving a claw dismissively. Sold to the fool human. May he choke on his conscience. 20 minutes later, Marcus carried the girl to his ship. She was light, too light, and she hadn't spoken a word. The restraints had left burns on her wrists that glowed faintly in the dock's dim lighting. Inside the Defiant Dawn, Marcus set her down gently in the medical bay. You're safe now, he said, pulling up the ship's medical database. I'm going to remove those restraints, okay? She nodded slowly, her 4 eyes studying him with an intelligence that seemed far older than her apparent age. As the restraints clicked open, she rubbed her wrists. Then she did something unexpected. She reached up and touched one of the crystals on her shoulder. With a sound like breaking glass, she snapped it free. Marcus lurched forward. Wait, don't! But she pressed the crystal into his palm. The moment it touched his skin, his mind exploded with images, sensations, emotions that weren't his own. He saw the Veilari homeworld before the invasions. Saw millions of her people hunted, harvested, exterminated. Saw the deep spaces between stars where survivors hid, protecting the last of their children. And he saw something else. A gift. Knowledge. The crystal dissolved into his skin, and Marcus gasped as understanding flooded through him. Veilari crystals weren't just pharmaceutical. They were data storage, cultural memory, and something far more valuable. They contained the biological blueprint for a defensive weapon that could neutralize Krell neural systems without harming other species. The girl, no. The Guardian spoke for the first time, her voice like wind chimes. You saved the last keeper of our knowledge. The Krell would have discovered this if they had harvested me. Now it is yours. Use it wisely, human. Free your people. Free all who suffer under Empire rule. Marcus stared at his hand where the crystal had been absorbed. He'd given up a weapons cache. He'd gained a war ender. What's your name? He asked softly. I am Lysera, and you, Marcus Chen, are the first of your kind to show us that humanity's greatest weapon isn't violence. It's the choice to be kind when cruelty would be easier. As the defiant dawn broke orbit, leaving the Empire station behind, Marcus activated his encrypted comm. He had calls to make, a resistance to contact, a galaxy to change. He'd thought he was saving one child. Instead, she'd saved them all. The reward wasn't credits or power. It was hope. And in the darkness of Imperial space, that was worth more than all the weapons in the galaxy.